Hi everybody, this is a video overview of this knife, the Spyderco Chaparral with the peel ply carbon fiber. This is a really nice knife. It's a perfect EDC size knife. It is extremely thin in the pocket. If you compare it to, for example, this is the special edition blue G10 Skyline. It's considerably thicker, and this is a thin knife to begin with. One of the things that they did is they made really thin handle scales, they made really thin liners, and they also made a really thin blade. Both the Skyline and the Chaparral have really thin blades. When the Chaparral was originally released, it was made of S30V steel. This is a Taichung Taiwan knife, as you can see right there. But now, when they released the second Chaparral, which is the one with the titanium handle scales, they changed the line to include all CTS XHP. If you haven't used CTS XHP before, it is supposed to be as hard as D2, but as stain resistant as 440C. That makes it a really useful, really good steel. It's also especially good in this application because of the very thin blade and the very steep angle that they put the grind on. This feels something more than a typical 30-degree angle at the cutting edge, and so this is an excellent slicer. I've also noticed that it's a very good ergonomic knife. It sort of follows the same classic lines as things like the Cali 3, the Cali Junior, and the Dragonfly. Think of it somewhere between the Cali Junior and the Dragonfly. The blade is 2.75 inches long, and the overall size of the knife weighs in just about 2 ounces. It has the over-the-top wire clip, which I really like. I also like the look of the G10, or not the titanium, the carbon fiber handle scales. As you can see here, let me see if I can get it. It's actually just a very thin layer of carbon fiber over a G10 underlay, and I think that's basically to save cost. The effect is that it looks cool, but the weight savings is probably not as good as what you would get normally with G10 or with carbon fiber. The handle scales, the liners in the handle scales are milled out. It is a lockback. It does not have the Boyd detent. I never found the need for the Boyd detent. The fit and finish on this knife, as with all Taichung Taiwan knives, is really good. One thing that I would note is that there's a lot of knife in the handle. The pivot is moved very far forward, and as you can see right there, there's the pivot, the back of the knife, the rear tang of the knife blade comes almost out of the handle. It's very close to the edge, and that gives you a lot of knife blade for a very small handle. Overall, I really like the Spyderco Chaparral. It's an excellent EDC knife. It's a little more than $100. I think you probably find it for like $112, $120 in various places. The titanium ones are more expensive. I probably wouldn't opt for the titanium ones. They're just more heavy, or they're just heavier. So I mean, it's not going to give you additional function. They're not frame locks, so you don't need the titanium. It's just to look nice. And this is a pretty nice looking knife as it is. This is a Sal Glesser design, as you can see right there. There's Sal's mark. And it is an excellent addition to the Spyderco lineup. I'll note that the thumb hole is very big. I think this is either the 11mm or the 14mm thumb hole, and it works very well. It's an excellent thumb hole. The bottom of the thumb hole is a little bit obscured, but that's just because they wanted to have a very narrow profile in the knife. And for a Spyderco, this is a narrow profile. Here it is in comparison to the Spyderco Techno, another knife I really like. This is a titanium knife, and it does run the CTS XHP. It's also from Taiwan. It's a little smaller than the Chaparral. As you can see here, the Chaparral is a little bit longer. I like the Techno, but if I was going to go if this was like my only knife, my only EDC knife, I'd probably take the Chaparral. The Chaparral does give you the sense that it's a little thinner. Maybe, I don't want to say too thin, but it does feel very thin in the hand, and it feels very thin in the pocket, and that's a good thing. It's sort of a trade-off. One thing that I noticed when I was handling this knife, and the review is coming, this knife was provided to me by Everyday Carry, and we're going to give this knife away, so pay attention to the review that's going to go up there soon. One thing that I noticed about the knife is that it is very, very similar, both in shape and in size, to this knife, the Strider PT. The Strider PT has sort of the double finger groove here, like that, and has a little downturn at the back, so your finger locks into place. It has good jimping on the top. The blade shape is similar, not the same, but similar. And the same thing goes with the Chaparral. You have this sort of two-finger hold right there, and then it kind of locks your hands in and get a good grip. I actually like the ergonomics on the Strider a little better than the ergonomics on the Chaparral. The Chaparral is 1/3 the price. It's certainly, this is not 3 times the knife. This knife is one of my very favorite knives, and the Chaparral is definitely in that same group now. I don't have anything bad to say about the knife other than I probably would not do any heavy prying or really serious hard use kind of stuff with this. This is a very thin sort of gentleman's knife, everyday carry knife, and in that role it excels. If you push it out beyond that role, I think you're probably going to be disappointed, as you are most times with tools. This is a pretty good buy for the money, although I think that the Dragonfly is probably just as good a buy. A little smaller. I guess I would say this. If you like the Dragonfly but you feel it's too small, then the Chaparral is probably your knife. It's a 1/4 inch bigger. The 1/4 inch makes a difference because it means the blade is 1/4 inch longer, the handle is 1/4 inch longer, so it is a bigger knife. I think 3 inches is probably the most you need in an EDC knife, and at 2.75 inches, this is like right in that comfort zone between being too big and not being big enough. It can do food prep. I've done quite a bit of food prep with it. It's open packages very well. The very steep grind, the very thin blade, and the hard steel make this an excellent slicer. And I've found that in most EDC tasks, a slicing ability, cutting ability, is more important than chopping ability. As you can see here, it is a much, much thinner knife than the Strider PT. The blade on the Strider PT is not quite twice as thick, but it's pretty close. I mean, it's like right in there. It's funny that these two knives come out to be so similar because they come from totally different design spaces. I mean, this is basically a change up from the Sage or the Cali 2 or the Cali 3, and this is a reduction from the SGN. And those two knives, the Striders and the Spydercos that these are derived from, they have totally different uses, totally different design philosophies. But in the end, these knives end up being very, very similar. If you're in the market for the Strider PT and you just can't bite the bullet and spend $300, then the Chaparral will give you 90% of the ergonomics. Maybe a little bit more pocketable size, and arguably better steel. I mean, this has S35VN, and it's good. I really like S35VN, but the CTSX HP is probably as good or better. So there you go. That's the video overview on the Spyderco Chaparral, and a review will be coming on everydaycarry.com.